Hi again, Mark here from Talkingbass.net. This week I've got a really simple tip for you that will definitely change your bass tone and possibly your overall approach to bass playing in general. So when you think about controlling your bass tone, what's the first thing that comes to mind? For some people it's the amp. So they might mess around with the bass, mid or treble controls on there. Or for others it might be the tone controls on your bass, especially if it's active. Or you might even be more into effects and pedals. They can obviously make a huge difference to the overall sound. But what if I told you that the biggest and most fundamental changes to your bass tone can be found in your hands? Now, I know it's a bit of a cliche, but it is true. The control that you have over your tone in your hands is massive, and there are many, many different factors that can come into play. But I'm going to give you one single example today that you can take away and mess with that I think will have the greatest effect on your playing. So the tip is simply this: experiment with your picking position. Doesn't matter whether you're playing fingerstyle or with a pick, experiment plucking in different spots along the string. There are so many places on any one string that it's almost limitless. You want to try playing in every spot from the bridge back here all the way along past the pickups and over the neck. You'll get vastly different tones by moving even a quarter of an inch, and then the key is to understanding what those tones are and how to employ them. Now, I know that some of you might be locked into one particular place on the bass. By default, I personally tend to anchor myself on one of the pickups. If I'm on a P bass, I'll sit on that neck pickup. If I have two pickups like this jazz, I'll pick one bass roughly on the type of tune that I'm playing. That's my basic default I often fall back to, but by doing that all the time, it's easy to miss out on all the cool tones that are available, some of which might be perfect for a particular song. So let's just try experimenting with that tone. First of all, just set all your tone controls flat, okay, so no boost or cut. On the amp, that usually means 12 o'clock. If you have passive pickups, you want the tone set to full. If it's active, just set each tone control halfway, probably on the indent. Again, no boost or cut. In terms of pickup bias, if you have two pickup, just set them both equally. If you have a jazz bass, that means both volumes up full. So what we're going for is a very straight and transparent sound from the bass itself. Now let's just try playing a very simple bass pattern that sounds like this. Okay, so really, really simple. So we're in the key of G, I'm just playing G, G, B, B, C, C, D, D, E, D, okay? 3rd fret E string for the G, then 2nd fret, 3rd fret, 5th fret on the A string, and then we're playing the E there with the 2nd fret of the D string. All of this is transcribed there in the PDF lesson workbook, okay? So just follow the link in the info below if you want to download that. So that's the bass line, okay? So just try playing that first of all, just get it under your fingers. Now let's try experimenting with that picking position. So we'll begin back here at the bridge. So I've got a bridge pickup, so I'm just going to anchor the thumb there on that bridge pickup, and I'm going to play fairly close to the bridge. So that sounds like this. Okay, so I'm not picking too hard, just, medium strength, and just try and remember how that sounds. We've got quite a bit of mid-range in there, that honky kind of sound, not a massive amount of bottom end, it's just quite a defined bridge sound, okay? So next, let's just move a small amount to the left. So we're moving towards that neck pickup there. So just a little bit, and okay, so it's quite subtle, but you might have noticed there, we're getting a little bit more bottom end. It's a little bit more round in the sound. The mids there are not as pronounced. Okay, so back at the bridge. And. Okay, so now let's move a little bit further down. So I'm going to move a little bit further towards this neck pickup. And we have. Okay, so again, we're getting a more hollow sound now. We don't have as much of that mid, and you know, it's just a bit fatter. We're getting more bottom end. So then, again, just move a little bit further this way, towards the neck. Again, more bottom end, it's just becoming more and more hollow as we move from this bridge further towards the neck, okay? And you'll notice once we get down here, you have to play a little bit lighter if you want to avoid any of that clank. Now, if you want that kind of clanky, you know, that kind of Steve Harris kind of clank, you know, that more of that metal sound, then that's fine, you know, hammer away, you know. But if you're wanting to avoid that and have a bit of a cleaner sound, you just have to play a little bit lighter, okay? So I'm playing quite light there. And even then, you've still got a little bit of noise in there. So then let's move down to the neck, okay? So let's hear how that sounds. Okay, and then if you want to go even further, what we can do is actually play exactly 1 octave above the fretted notes, and that gives us a certain kind of sound. It's almost like a fluty kind of sound, almost like almost synth bass like. So, and that would sound like this. Okay, so it's a little bit tougher to play there like that, but you can hear that very, very hollow sound. The harmonics are really pronounced in there, so we've got that, you know, just that overall hollow sound. And like I say, very much like a synth bass. Okay, so that's down here over the neck. Now, just to compare with the other extreme, let's move back to the bridge, which sounds like this. Okay, so very, very, very different, you know. Back down here. Down here. You know, we've got a whole plethora of different tones available to us as we move from that bridge all the way down here. And, you know, I've only picked out maybe 5 or 6 of them there, but, you know, it's almost limitless, the number of places that you could play along there to get just very slight variations in the tone, okay? So, like I say, the fundamental foundation sound that we're actually creating is all done without any change of the tone controls at all. It's all just done with the hand and our position. Now, you might be thinking, well, that does make a bit of a difference, but, you know, it's not the same as slamming the bass control up to 11, you know, Spinal Tap style. And no, it won't. But the point here is that we're making fundamental changes to the tone. When you play back at the bridge, you get a different natural starting point in your tone than you would playing over the neck, and that has a direct influence on every other link in the tonal chain as the signal works its way through the pickups, active circuit, the effects, main preamp, power amp to the speakers, and out into the acoustics of the room. All of those things have a huge effect, but the foundation for those is laid in the original sound you created. You can mess with the EQ all you like, but if the original sound source isn't correct, then you're going to be fighting a losing battle with yourself. So the best way I can recommend you experiment with this is in a band setting. You won't notice the differences in the same way if you're sat in a bedroom playing quietly. You'll hear the fundamental changes, but you might not feel it. Plus, the whole point of this is to create a tone that works in a practical setting. So the next time you're playing in a band, whether it's in a local band practice or on a gig, try shifting your hand to different places along the string during the song and just listen to the huge effect it can have. You might often hear players moaning about the bass or about the amp, and you might sometimes see people messing around with tone controls on stage, when sometimes all it takes is a shift of the hand, you know, half an inch to the left, and all of a sudden you get a fat sound and all's well again. As a loose guide, before you try boosting the bass control, just try moving nearer the neck. Before boosting the mids, try moving closer to the bridge. It might not give you everything you need, but it's certainly a lot quicker and a lot more organic than messing around with knobs. Okay, so I hope that tip gives you some food for thought. Remember to visit talkingbass.net for hundreds more free bass lessons. Just hit the link in the info below. And while you're there, sign up for free to gain access to a whole load of free ebooks and other practice resources. Okay, I'll see you next week.